The town of Brookhaven was quiet that night, the kind of silence that wrapped itself around the streets like a heavy blanket. Jake Miller, a 30-year-old mechanic, stood outside his small garage, locking the rusted chain around the doors. His shoulders ached from 12 hours of work, and the grease on his hands had become part of him. Bills waited at home, stacked like a cruel reminder of everything he couldn't catch up on. Still, he held his chin high. Being poor wasn't easy, but Jake believed dignity was something he could always afford to keep. Just as he turned toward the cracked sidewalk that led to his old pickup, headlights cut through the still night. A sleek black Mercedes slowed and rolled to a stop in front of his garage. Jake frowned. Cars like that didn't belong in Brookhaven, especially not at midnight. The engine sputtered and gave a wheeze, forcing the driver to pull over. The door opened and a woman stepped out, tall, elegant, and strikingly out of place. Her heels clicked against the pavement, and the faint perfume she wore carried into the cool air. "Are you still open?" she asked, her tone urgent but uncertain. Jake glanced at the clock on his phone. It was nearly midnight. Normally he would have waved someone off, but something about her made him pause. "Not really," he replied with a tired shrug. "But it looks like you're not in the mood to wait till morning." She gave a quick nod, her eyes darting around as if checking the shadows. Jake didn't ask questions. He pulled the hood open and leaned into the engine, immediately spotting the failing fuel pump. As he worked, he felt her gaze on him, sharp, yet distant, like she was wrestling with thoughts she couldn't share. He tried to lighten the mood. "Rough night?" he asked, twisting his wrench. She hesitated before answering, her voice soft but tight. "You could say that." The silence between them was filled by the quiet hum of the street lamp above, flickering against her anxious face. Sweat ran down Jake's neck, but his hands moved with steady confidence. Fixing engines was the one place in life he felt certain. After an hour, the Mercedes roared back to life. Jake straightened, wiping his hands on a rag, leaving smears of black oil across the fabric. The woman looked at him with visible relief, the tension in her shoulders loosening for the first time. "How much?" she asked quickly, already reaching into her sleek purse. Jake shook his head, the corners of his mouth tugging upward. "Forget it. Pay me tomorrow. It's midnight. Nobody should be talking money right now." She froze, staring at him with disbelief, as if no one had ever said that to her before. Her eyes softened in a way that unsettled Jake, not with discomfort, but with curiosity. It was the kind of look you gave someone who had just surprised you, in the best way. Slowly, she slipped her purse closed. "You have no idea what you've done for me tonight," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Before he could respond, she slid behind the wheel and drove off into the night. Jake stood under the buzzing streetlight, rag still in his hand, a strange feeling rising in his chest. Something about her was different. Something about this night would not let him forget. The next evening, Jake was back at his garage, tinkering with an old Ford truck that barely had a future, when the hum of a familiar engine drew his attention. He looked up, surprised to see the same sleek black Mercedes rolling to a stop outside. The woman stepped out, this time without the anxious rush from the night before. She looked calmer, her hair pulled neatly back, though her eyes carried something unspoken. "You didn't let me pay you," she said firmly. Jake wiped his hands and smiled. "Like I said, it wasn't about money." She studied him as though trying to place a puzzle piece. Finally, she extended her hand. "I'm Claire Donovan." Her name struck a faint chord in his mind, but he brushed it aside. Jake shook her hand, rough and calloused against hers. "Jake Miller," he replied. She handed him an envelope, insisting he take it, but when he opened it, his eyes widened at the thick stack of bills inside. "This is way too much," he said. Claire's lips curved into a faint smile. "It's nothing compared to what you gave me. Freedom." Jake frowned, not understanding. Over the following days, Claire kept showing up at the garage. Sometimes she brought coffee. Other times she just watched him work, asking questions about engines and parts she clearly didn't understand. Jake teased her gently, and to his surprise, she laughed, really laughed, as if no one had made her do that in a long time. Slowly, she began sharing pieces of her life. A wealthy family, endless obligations, a father who controlled every aspect of her future. Jake listened, leaning against fenders and toolboxes, his grease-stained shirt a sharp contrast to her designer clothes. One night, under the dim light of his garage, Claire's voice trembled as she confessed the truth. "I was supposed to marry a man my father chose, someone I don't love. That night, when my car broke down, I was on my way to run, to escape." Jake's chest tightened at her words. She looked at him with watery eyes, whispering, "You were the first person in years who treated me like I mattered, not like property." The weight of her secret hung heavy, and Jake realized fixing her car had changed more than an engine. It had changed her life. Jake didn't know what to say. He wasn't rich. He didn't own more than his failing garage and the roof over his head. Yet Claire looked at him like he was the one thing she'd been searching for. Slowly, he reached out, brushing her trembling hand with his. "You don't owe me anything," he murmured, "but if you ever need someone who sees you for you, I'm here." Claire's breath hitched, her fingers curling around his. For the first time, she wasn't the untouchable rich woman, and he wasn't just the poor mechanic. They were two souls, colliding in the quiet night. Weeks passed, and Claire kept choosing Jake over the life her father tried to script for her. The Mercedes returned again and again, not broken this time, but as a bridge between two worlds that shouldn't have crossed. Jake couldn't believe how much his life had changed since that midnight encounter. He had gone from fixing cars alone to sharing late-night conversations, laughter and secrets with a woman whose world was galaxies apart from his own. And yet somehow, under the stars of a small American town, they both found the one thing they never expected: love.